Today we are going to use this image here. As you can see, this model here has fair skin and she has some red blemishes on her face. And we're gonna do a skin retouch and frequency separation to really just clean this up, just to show you what can be done. We're gonna start with just cleaning up the face first. Before you do frequency separation, that's the first thing you want to do. So just make a copy of the background layer, select your tool, and get to work on this. But in this case, we're going to start with the patch tool and then healing brush, things like that. But I always like to start with the patch tool to get the bigger blemishes done first. And that way, also using the patch tool helps maintain the texture in the skin, because that's what it's all about. You don't want to be using tools that are going to just like a spot healing tool in these big areas, because it's going to leave little patterns there and it's going to kind of mix it all together, and you're not really going to see the skin texture anymore. So we're trying to avoid that. So this is a way you can do it and maintain texture. Also, you can see that I am doing the darker areas, sampling other darker areas, clean darker areas, and I'll do the same thing with the lighter areas. I won't sample from dark areas to patch light areas, only similar skin tones, lighting, that sort of thing, when you're doing the patch work. This can be really time consuming, so just take your time and enjoy it. And, that way you can practice on this and do it and get better and better at it. We're going to speed this up just a little bit, and that way the video is not 2 hours long. So as you can see here, I'm going to get the spot healing brush and just touch up this little area here. Not too much, just only a couple times will I even use a spot healing brush anymore. It's just for small little things that really don't have too much of a texture to worry about. Patch tool is going to be the most used in the spot healing brush. And again, these small little pieces like this, I mean, some people could just leave that. I am just doing this for the sake of the video, so you can see, touch it up, make it real clean. But freckles and things like that, if it's permanent, you can leave it there. Of course, you got the occasional clients, if you're a photographer and you're photo editing and they have scars or things they don't like, you might want to talk to them and say, hey, do you want this scar removed? I've done that plenty of times, done plenty of headshots, plenty of portraits, family photos, individuals, you name it. And everybody's got something they're insecure about and they might want to have it removed. But just talk to them and ask them, don't make it a big deal. You don't want to embarrass anybody, but just say, hey, I noticed a scar on your cheek here. Do you want to keep it, or do you want me to remove it? Because sometimes, maybe they're doing this for like a photo headshot or something for the business and they want to clean it up. I'm bringing this in a little bit so you can see the spot healing brush. Now you can see it's just you sample area that's right by the spot that you're trying to get rid of, and the blemishes, sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. But again, the big ones I get with the patch tool, and the very, very small ones, spot healing brush. It's just easier that way. Now I'm going to do this section real fast, and then we're going to start with the back next. move down here to the back, and you can see the blemishes on her shoulder and right there at her arm. And we're going to touch these up because we're going to do frequency separation on the back too as well. For this photo, we're going to get all the skin. So we're going to clean everything up. And again, this is something you got to do first before you start with the layers. Because if you don't have to come back and do this. Just do it all now. And again, if it's like you can see that mole up there, some of the moles, things like that, if you want to leave those, leave those. I'm just cleaning this up just to make it nice and clean, and no blemishes, no dark spots. This is kind of how everybody is. Everybody has these little spots here and there, but we're doing a photo. And of course, if you're a photographer and you have clients, and they want the best photo they could possibly get, so that's kind of important to clean it up and make it their best, because they're going to show these to people. I'm going to zip through this area real quick because there's a lot to work with here. To start doing the frequency separation process, and we want to make 2 copies of the background layer, and the bottom copy it's going to be the low frequency layer. Top copy is going to be the high frequency layer. You can label these however you want so you'll know which one it is, but it's important the low, the high. Now turn off the high frequency layer, select the low frequency layer, and go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then set the appropriate radius. I'll explain that later. Now turn back on the high frequency layer, go to image, apply image, and then select the low layer as the merge layer. Go to go to subtract for the blend mode, and then set your scale and offset at 2 and then 128. Now you're going to select your low layer. You're going to grab the lasso tool. This is what I like to use personally. Some people like to paint it using the mixer brush, and I'll use that some shortly just to kind of clean things up. But for me, when it comes to doing the frequency separation, I just think this looks better. That's a personal choice. And as you can see here, this is the values of the radius of the pixels here for the Gaussian blur. You have to determine what value is going to make it look best. So you don't want to blow it out and blur and smooth the skin out so much that it just looks overly porcelain. And of course, it's a matter of taste. I mean, you could probably stop before this frequency separation and just leave the photo the way it is. And I'm sure the client would be happy, whoever's looking at this photo, because the skin looks great now. But this is just going to give it a little extra creativity as far as look is concerned, and just make it really, really nice. And you'll see that the skin will be smooth, the texture will still be there. It'll be great. Anybody would love this photo, and it's a way to almost use a beauty filter, but without the blowout. And so that's nice. And so people can still, imagine this girl, you're giving her photo to somebody, and you're giving this photo to her, she's showing it to somebody, and everybody's looking at her photo thinking, wow, her eyes are really sharp, her teeth, her lips are really sharp, I can see her skin and it looks perfect. And they're going to think, wow, does she really look this way? Because it looks believable, because this doesn't look like one of those beauty filters that you have on your phone that blows you out so hard that you can't see anything all the pores are gone, and suddenly your eyes are bigger or whatever it does. This is going to be much nicer, much more believable. But as you can see here with the lasso tool, I'll show other videos using um, the paint method, and but I personally like this lasso tool. This is the first time, this is the first way I ever did frequency separation, and I'm like, wow, I like the results. And then, I learned using other methods, and then I compared with the work I did in the past with it, and I was like, you know what, I'm sticking with the lasso tool because for me this works better. And because this is working on the tones and the skin color, which is the low layer. The high layer is the texture, and so when you work with the low layer and you're evening out these tones and smoothing the skin, you're not affecting the actual texture layer. So that's why you still see the pores in the skin, because we're not messing with that. We've separated the two and just working on the color and tones. Yeah, see, that looks good. And eventually, yes, um, I can go through here and just touch up any little shadows. You can do dodge and burn to add more shadows and to lighten areas up if it's too dark, to darken areas if it's too light, just to give the image more depth. And you can see here as the skin is really taking shape, and it's um, becoming more even, and especially the back. I mean, compared to the way it was. Now I'm going to take this mixer brush, and again, this is another way that you could do it without using the lasso tool to kind of blend in colors. It's mixing the pixels together. My settings are usually very low on this. You don't want the flow too high. I got mine very, very low, just to kind of gradually get it in there. And you want to sample from light areas to touch up the light areas, as you can see there. And then at the bottom part of her jaw where you see it's a little darker, you sample from there and stroke in the pattern. You don't want to be too, you see how I'm going with the flow of the face, and that's the way you want to do it. You don't want to make too big of a circle in certain areas and kind of get a mixed pattern, a swirl look going on. uh, so you kind of just go with the flow of the skin. Yeah, you see that that's smoothing out real nicely. Speed this up a little bit just so you can kind of see it in action. And there we go. And that's all there is to it. See, it's really not that difficult, and you can see the results of this, and it's pretty amazing. I think the client would love it. Any model would love that. Um, Also, you could have done this at the very beginning, but you could take your high frequency layer, your low frequency layer, um, and group those two together, and that way you can keep it nice and clean, and then just open up the folder, select your low layer, and then go from there. And that should do it for this photo. We got more videos coming up, so be on the lookout, and thank you for watching.